Hello and welcome to a new video. In today's video I will be trying out these acrylic markers that Arrtx has kindly sent me. This is the set of 90 colours, so there are a lot more colours in here than the other sets. So as you can see, my box did arrive a little banged up, got a couple creases in it, it's a bit misshapen, but thankfully all the pens inside it are perfectly safe. The stickers also came a little bashed up because they got stuck to the inside of the lid, and unfortunately I did lose one of the stickers. It just wasn't on the sheet and I couldn't find it anywhere. So one of my pens is stickerless. I've shown you before in these videos how you do these. These are brush nib pens and they come with a sticker to go on the end of the pen to help you identify it, as well as one that wraps around the body. This can be quite tedious, but also it's worth it to help you identify your pens. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off of camera for your sanity. And once they are all done, it is super satisfying to just see them all labelled and nicely together like this. And there is such a range of colours that I just cannot wait to start using them. I got a bit lazy when it came to the swatch sheet. Typically I like to grid them out, but because there are 90 pens in this set, I was just like, I'm just gonna go for it. I'll see if they fit on the page or not. And thankfully it fit on the page. I did have to start cramming them together a bit at the end because I planned it out so poorly. Yeah, it fit really nicely and now I have this beautiful swatch sheet. So moving on to the sketchbook, what I wanted to do, because there is quite a nice range of colours in that you get like a nice range of blues, a nice range of yellows, pinks. The purples aren't as big a range as I was expecting, but it works nonetheless. So what I wanted to do to show off the colours was very self-indulgent. I have been very into owls recently. You might know this if you've been keeping up with my stories over on Instagram as well as a few postings. So I thought a great way to show off the colours would be to draw a bunch of owls, which would make me very happy, but then try and limit each owl to one colour, if that makes sense. So a blue owl, a pink owl, a purple owl, you know? Initially, I just start by sketching out all the owls. I have been enjoying just drawing owls in my free time lately. I was really looking forward to just sketching them out. They are really fun to just draw, and because I have been drawing a lot of them, I feel like I've been understanding how to draw them more accurately. So this process was just super fun, and it's why I start by sketching out all of the owls first, rather than focusing on one owl and colouring it and then focusing on another owl and colouring it. I was just really eager to draw them all because it was very comforting for me. It did help. I wasn't feeling amazing on this day that I drew them. I had like a really bad headache, so doing my favourite part first really helped, and then because I had the whole page laid out already, it then helped me move on to colouring. So for me, this was the best method to do this page. Owls recently have been something I have just really enjoyed doing. I say recently, it was like sometime last year that I really got into drawing them. I think it is purely because of Elden Ring. I mentioned it in one of my recent videos where I did a sort of sketchbook tour on my little ideas book, but I started drawing owls because when I was trying to take screenshots of my Elden Ring character, there was an owl that would not get out of the frame. So I kind of headcanoned, or whatever you want to call it, that my character had an owl pet or familiar or companion, which really got me into drawing them. And ever since, I have kind of just been a little obsessed with them, drawing them as much as I can. I've even created a new character recently who has an owl as a sort of companion, so I'm just finding excuses to draw them lately. These ones specifically are barn owls. They are the ones that I've been drawing a lot of, and from what I've been sharing on my story, you guys seem just as obsessed with them as I am. I love drawing wings. Like, I love birds in general. That is something that has also been progressing recently, but wings are just so satisfying to draw. They're kind of tricky, and it took me a long time, especially when I was younger, to figure out how wings actually work, but these owl studies recently have also been helping in that department. So I start with the very first owl I drew. I wanted him to be a blue themed owl, so I went in and started colouring in the lighter parts with one of the lighter blues. You can see that it is tearing up the page a little bit. I have to say this blue in particular was bugging me. It was tearing up the page because I had to press a lot and keep layering it, because as you can see, it was surprisingly dry. In fact, actually, I'm going to test it right now. I'm just going to cut into the video for a second with some separate footage because I just want to see if it really is still that bad. So it was this pen here, number 43. So I'm just going to see if it's still like that. Oh, it is. So yeah, as you can see, I don't know why. It's really watery now, actually. Like, none of the colour is coming out. This is the only pen that I had this problem with. I don't really know what you can do about it. That's just the way the pen is. But the rest of the pens were juicy. They came out like thick paint. So I don't know, I guess this is just a bad one. But anyway, back to the video. So yes, I started off with that one, and it wasn't, like I said, I had a headache, so it wasn't exactly filling me with motivation, but I kept going because I was like, this is the lightest part, it's probably gonna get covered anyway. And as you can see with the next pen, which came out a lot thicker, it doesn't chew up the paper as much. It is a little bit because of the nature of these pens, like you are rubbing something on to paper, so it's going to chew it up a little bit. But I personally don't mind this about these pens. I know a lot of you do. You guys have mentioned this in the past, that you can't stand it, and honestly that's fair enough. Everyone's allowed their own preferences and I don't blame you. But yeah, they're a lot better than that first pen, so thankfully I didn't run into that again. I just might be avoiding using that one in the future. So I just slowly started building up with the colours. As I said, I started with the lightest part and then I layered over it, gradually getting darker. I wanted to use as many of the blues as I could, whilst also trying to have it make sense on the owl. Obviously these are not owl colours, so I had to try and figure out like what colour could work for what part of the actual owl while having it make sense, because like the back of the owl and the back of the wings are, on barn owls at least, darker than the rest of the owl. Like the belly and the underwings are quite pale, so I was just trying to find the balance with the limited colours. But because there are so many of them, it was quite easy and it was a lot of fun. It felt like a puzzle trying to figure it out. As you can see, I do also introduce some purple, because although I am trying to limit it within its colour schemes, I mean, you can kind of, you know, purple has blue in it. Yeah, okay, I'll admit, for most of these owls, or for all of these owls, I do kind of break my rule a bit because I can't help it. I want to add a little bit extra colour here and there to kind of complement the mane of each of the owls. So using this purple, I think, helped the blue stand out more, and you'll see later I also add a bit more colour at the end. I then used this really pale yellow. I used this one on all of them, and it's to highlight the highlights. It's to highlight the highlights. I use it for the parts that like the sun is shining on. Yeah, I think it works well. This one seems to work for each of the colours I use it on. So I also have been doing this thing lately where when I draw owls, I don't give them accurate eyeballs. I've seen people do this a lot, and it's something I really enjoy doing as well, where you give the owl sort of glowing eyes, you know, kind of like it's the moon kind of vibe in the owl's eyes, and it's something I really love. I think it creates a very nice contrast to the owls to keep it so simple, and it's what I do for all of the owls in this video. Yeah, I think it works really well, because otherwise if I'd made them dark, like, it would probably look fine, but for me I feel like it would just blend in a bit too much. I also added an outline, as you can see. This was in a darker blue, and because of the nature of these pens, you can get quite fine details, and that is evident in lining the owl, I think. So moving on to the second owl, this one is a pink owl, and I did the same thing as I did on the other one, where I started with the lighter colour first. So I used this pale pink, sort of creamy pink, and then I went in and built up the colours again, so slowly adding darker and darker colours. This can be helpful, but it can also be a bit not detrimental, but it can also make it a bit difficult. Because I like to subtly build up the colours and the shading, I usually go through that phase of thinking it doesn't look good and that you can't see things. And this is why I have a problem with contrast in a lot of my pictures, because usually I then stop before adding what is really needed. So it all looks very samey for a very long time until I get to the end and I add the very dark colours as the shadow or the line art, and then I also add like the really bright colours for the highlights. My art does suffer a lot because of this sometimes. I think that's why a lot of my art can be quite mid-tone based, and I don't really know how to not do that, because this is a method that I really enjoy doing, but I guess if I don't realise that I need to keep going, it won't get the contrast it needs. I don't know if any of that made sense. It makes sense to me, but I don't know if wording that made any sense. Yeah, I really like this owl. I think it might be my favourite on the entire page. Not only because it's pink and I love pink, but I think the shape of the owl and how the colours work towards the end is just my favourite. So one of the biggest problems I was having with this page, and this isn't a fault of the pen, this was a fault of my mentality, is I kept feeling like it needed more and more refining, but I couldn't figure out how to do that and how to get these pieces to the level that I wanted. So I do really like how all of these pieces ended up, but I also can't deny that I feel like they are missing a little something that I can't figure out still. But yeah, I just wanted you to be aware that I like them, but I am aware that there is something missing with them. Adding this red on this owl really made me happy. I think that's because, like I said, the whole contrast thing, I added a lot of it at the end, so it always fixes it. So then for the third owl, I wanted to go with purple. So as I mentioned earlier, purple is probably the colour in this set that is lacking the most. You get a lot of colour ranges when it comes to the blues and the pinks and the yellows, and the greens for a matter of fact, but I just didn't do green, which is, I mean, I could always revisit it. I could always do some green owls later. It's just, I think the idea of a green owl, I was like, yeah, I'll just focus on the other colours, I think. The purple set, it's very limited. The lightest purple is this purple that I'm currently using after the pink, and like that's a nice purple, but I'd say it's still quite dark. And then after that purple, the next one just jumps to being really, really dark. So you've got a slightly bluer one and a slightly red one, which I think is the third colour that I use on this owl. I think it works. Like, I think I made it work for this piece, but it is a quite dark owl because of the limited purples. And I think if you were doing a piece where you weren't limiting yourself to just doing a purple owl, for example, I think you might not notice this as much. I think it would be quite a nice range that you have. You could swap in a blue instead, but because of how I'm doing this, it's quite noticeable to me. But that being said, I do really like how this owl turned out. I think it looks less like a barn owl and more like, what are they called, like a grey owl? I don't actually know my owl species, which is shameful. It looks more like a different breed of owl. But it makes for a nice contrast on the page, I think. So yeah, I quite like that as well. So moving on to the fourth owl, I decided to go with yellow for this because I think yellow is the biggest range of colours that this set has. So it felt like a no-brainer that I should do something yellow, a yellow owl. This one turned out so cute. I think it ended up looking like a small owl statue, a golden statue. I think it's probably my second favourite, and I think it just looks like this cute little mystical, magical owl, and I really like how it looks on the yellow post because I think the post is quite similar in colour to the owl, so that really adds to the it looks like a golden statue vibe. So this one's basically just a mix of yellows and oranges, and later I do add some red to it as well because they didn't really have like a dark yellow, because I don't think that's a thing, it's just orange, but the orange didn't go dark enough, so I outlined it with red instead, because otherwise this owl was quite stuck in the mid-tone range, which I didn't want. I wanted to fix that. I wanted more contrast, and he's just like a cute little guy. So yes, I like how this one turned out. So at this point is when I was like, I like that these owls are their own colours, but I do think they need a little bit of something else in each one. So I added some yellow flecks to the pink one, which I love. It looks like a sunset almost. Some blue flecks to the purple one to help give it more of a nighttime look. And then I just added some pink to the blue one because I didn't actually know what to add to the blue one, but I thought it would be cute if each owl had one of the other owl colours with it, which is why I then also gave blue to the yellow owl, which I think also makes it look more gold because blue is quite present in gold items, or at least that's how I colour it. And at this point I was like, it looks kind of boring. The page looks really boring with just the owls. So I wanted to give each of them a background, something that complemented the colour of the owl themselves. So with the first one, I went with this reddish pink bush background, and I gave it a nice fence at the bottom to give it a bit more of a contrast. I then went in and added a proper red background because the pink background I'd given it meant that it blended into the current line art of the owl, which just looked wrong. And then I went in with a white gel pen and added some sparkles just to make them all look a bit more interesting. For the purple one, I really wanted to give it a blue background just to lean more into the nighttime look that I said it had earlier. I didn't want them all to have the same background, so I tried to go for different settings. So this one has a cloud setting because it is flying. So I blended in some blues. I think my biggest mistake with this one is that the clouds are too similar to the blue that I used for the background, but I didn't want the background to be like hugely dark or hugely saturated. The colour that I did use, I felt gave it like a really nice almost nighttime look. So I don't know, maybe I should have gone for a different colour with the clouds entirely, but I do also really like how the clouds ended up, so I'm kind of mixed. I also was blending the clouds a lot here, which is why you can see there is quite a bit of paper tearing. That happens especially when you blend these pens, but like I said, it's not something that really bothers me that much, so I'm happy to keep doing it. And then again, I added some white gel pen stars just to make it look a little bit more magical and sparkly. For the pink owl, I wanted to give it a field background because I wasn't really sure what to do. I was like, it's flying as well, so I could give it clouds, but I don't want to do clouds again. So I gave it this pink to purple gradient background, which I really like, and I think it complements the colours of the owl so nicely. I tried to make it look like a layered field vibe, so most of the detail on there being grain is at the front of the piece, and the rest of it is kind of lazy hill work with some lines in it. Similar to the purple one, I wanted to give it a moon, so this also leads into the sunset vibes, which is something I've been doing a lot lately. I did it with my character creation video, so I guess I like sunset colours. And then some more sparkles, some more stars, just to make it seem magical. And then for the blue one, I didn't know what to do. I was like, I could do another background, but then I also feel like it's too samey now. If all of them have one, it might look a bit weird. So instead, I went for these sort of pink sparkle things that I don't mind, but they're also not the best they could have been. It was very much a lazy option for the blue one, but then I also think it works better with the other three having their own background, that this one just has sparkles. You know, it draws more focus to the owl itself, I think, and overall I think it works best for the page. So I'm really happy with it. Yeah, I really love how this page turned out. I think all the colours look really nicely together, especially because I added the little bits of colour in each of them that ties them all together. Adding the backgrounds was a big part of what brought everything together. So yeah, I'm so happy with how these turned out, and I had such a blast using these pens. I always do with these. I think because the shape of the nib, it just lends itself to having such a pretty application, and it really helps for feathers because you can get that perfect feather shape really easily. So yeah, I love using these pens. My only gripe is that one pen I used, but then from all the other pens that I used in this set, none other were like that, so I think that was just one faulty pen. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this. I've really enjoyed drawing owls in this video and just talking about owls. If you would like to try out these pens for yourself, there are links in the description to where you can get them, as well as any extra information on the items used in this video. I want to say a big thank you to Arrtx for sending me these to try out. A big thank you to you guys for watching this video, and if you've made it this far, hello. And a massive thank you to my Patreons: Dispe, Finn Carter, Grimclow, The Waffle of Life, Non-Toxic, Saint Nick's, LP, Kira May, Kay, Joanna, VB, Pretty Rotten, R.A. Foxy, Joanna Snake Moon, Humble Frogs, Local Fishkeeper, Mould Ghoul, Farrar Ware, Sun Arts, Molly Marula, Scout Radley, Sammy Bear 127, Kenzania, Jade S, Arrow, Charlie, Malorus, Jess H30, Cindy King, Art by Lavender, Angel of the Woods, Rainbow Tea, Breaded Nuggets, Lindsay, Humani, The Moth Bug, Knox, Catbird House, The Tormented Shadow, Sweet and Hopeless, Pocket, Misfit, Jordan's Tiny Planet, The Coffee Rain, Black Jackal Art, Leela Loves You, Halachu, Faith, A. Wendu, Cosascobs, Wolfen Wares, Inky Slug, Olivia Gadbor, Heather F, Cheris Needham, Rotting Letters, By Nixery, Cyrus Orion, Lolo, Brianna McGraw, Malbon Designs, Gamut Girl, Dodo, Catberry Studio, Solar Tortoise, Venom Horror, Auden, Red S Lily, Hayley, Sienna G, Stephanie, Lady Ratbird, Clown, Fia, Greenfinch G Illustration, Lynn, and Cody. Thank you guys so much for your constant support, and I will see you in the next video.